Hey guys, what's going on? Blaine back for another Netflix review, and today I'm going to be talking about Toscana. Toscana is a Danish romantic drama that tells the story of Theo Dahl, a professional chef who learns of his estranged father's death, as well as having been bestowed a castle in Tuscany where he lived and worked, also as a chef. He travels there hoping to sell it quickly so he can make money to start up his dream restaurant when he meets a woman named Sophia. The two get off to a bit of a rocky start, but they eventually start to warm up to each other. Sophia's more easygoing personality motivates Theo to reconsider his views on the world and life in general, while leading to an inevitable romance. This was a nice feel-good type of movie that didn't have too many stakes behind it. There are some issues that come with this approach, but it still manages to tell a convincing story about a man's search for passion and meaning while doing so in charming fashion. I found Theo to be a very sympathetic character right from the start. One can tell from looking at him that he's burnt out and just fed up with the business pressures that interfere with his craft. He approaches everything as if it were a numbers game, being meticulous about how much of an ingredient should be used or trying to get the money he needs to open his dream restaurant. Because of this, his temper can get the best of him at times, but it can be understood that his actions are coming from a place of frustration and not anger. The passion that he had for cooking isn't the same as it once was, and he has to put a lot of effort to get it back again, which made it easy to become invested in his journey. Part of this journey includes him having to reconcile with his father's death. It's clear that his father had a profound influence on him, as he's his inspiration for becoming a chef, but Theo also resents him for leaving him and his mother at an early age. This added more emotional weight to the story and gives Theo extra reason to think about what he was really brought to Tuscany for, aside from just getting a castle. Sophia helps Theo along on his journey, and she was another great character as well. She has her own struggles in the story, partly owing to her upcoming marriage to a man who she isn't interested in marrying, but also in that she suffers a lot more from Theo's father's death, having worked alongside him for so many years. I thought her wedding plot was handled a bit messily because her husband-to-be barely appears throughout the rest of the story, but I can at least see the direction the filmmakers were going with it. Her heart is set on the castle instead of her future husband, but she feels pulled toward a certain direction, and this isn't made easier when Theo's desire to sell the castle complicates things. However, this did make it easier to empathize with her predicament, along with her kind-hearted personality. She adds a lot of fun to the narrative, as she's much more relaxed compared to Theo, and thus is able to help him thaw his cold exterior quite a bit, which made for quite a few heartwarming scenarios. In this regard, the two are a great match for each other. They're very much the definition of opposites attract, with how abrasive Theo can be versus Sophia's jovial nature. This made for a lot of amusing dialogue and situations between the two, but also helped them emotionally connect in a deeper and realistic manner. She knows a completely different version of Theo's father than Theo does, so while she does her best to help Theo regain his passion for cooking and make the best out of his trip in Tuscany, there's also this lingering tension between the two from their different views that adds an air of unpredictability to the relationship, which also adds suspense. I also liked how the two have something in common despite their differences, and that they both dedicated themselves to something, and they're miserable because of that level of dedication. Their commonality in a sense made their bond more believable, as well as relatable with how it touches upon burnout. This being said, I wasn't able to connect with the two at first. It takes a while for the two to meet, and when they do, their interactions flip back and forth between being friendly in one scene and hostile in the next, and then moving on like nothing happened. The relationship wasn't consistent in the beginning, but it does level out eventually. The first thing I noticed about this movie is how pleasant and uplifting its tone is. Apart from the occasional dramatic moment that is warranted, the movie has this whimsy about it that makes it a joy to watch, and a big part of that is because of its technical presentation. Words cannot express how beautiful the cinematography and scenery of this movie is. Seeing the Tuscany landscape of rolling hills, deep green forests, and the classic style architecture added to the romantic vibe of this movie's presence, which is further aided by an excellent orchestral soundtrack in every scene. Perhaps the biggest contributing factor to how enjoyable the movie was how much it took advantage of its focus on food. Theo constantly crafts a variety of recipes, which reinforces his character's dedication to his profession, and honestly, it just made it more fun to see what he'd make next. I swear, there's something cathartic about watching food-centered movies that I can't explain. The mellow nature of this movie's story can put it at a disadvantage at times though. I never got a sense of urgency at any point when watching it, which is odd considering that Theo is supposed to be strapped for cash and trying to sell the castle, and yet he keeps putting it off one day after another. Slow pacing isn't always a bad thing. Jon Favreau's chef did this well with a similar presentation on tone and subject matter, but here it's a bit off. Theo's goal is understandable, but it takes a long time to get going, and after he comes to his aha moment, there's not much time left in the movie for it to properly sink in, both for him and the audience. It's also weird how willing his fellow staff at his current restaurant are to just uproot their lives, fly all the way to Tuscany, and help him cater Sophia's upcoming wedding for free. There isn't much background information behind the team either, so their casual presence contributed little more than further disrupting the story's pacing. Thankfully, Thankfully, this doesn't get in the way of the story too much, as most of the focus is placed on Teo and Sofia. I like how the movie makes sparing use of flashbacks to show both Sofia and Teo's dad's roles in Teo's upbringing as a child. They provide enough context in the story without overwhelming the viewer with exposition. I did think, though, that it was a bit strange with how randomly affected Teo would be from his father's absence. There's a few times where Teo will suddenly shift the mood by talking about his father in a negative light, and these tonal shifts were quite jarring. Nevertheless, the movie is able to overcome this and never dwells on pessimism. The themes contribute to its optimistic outlook, exploring the influence of family and the gift of life itself, with how eggs are used in multiple ways to represent rebirth, and how happy and fulfilled everyone at the castle is. It left me with a warm and fuzzy feeling when it was all said and done. Overall, Toscana is a great drama that is surprisingly light on said drama, but makes up for this with a warm, upbeat presentation and compelling lead characters. If you like dramas that aren't too overbearing or depressing and you want to chill out to something that's relaxing like Chef, I say you should check this one out. It's a light and easygoing tale with likable characters and beautiful visuals, and despite some narrative issues along the way, it succeeded in drawing me into its story and world, as well as making me fall in love with Italy all over again. What did you think about this movie? Did you enjoy its relaxing, positive tone, or did you find its story's pacing suffered because of it? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways guys, that's gonna wrap up my review of Toscana. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it, and as always stay tuned for the next part, where next time I review the American romantic comedy, A Perfect Pairing. Bye bye!